I want you to see is this workspace. This is the pattern, one of the patterns from the Plenty of Patterns kit or package in the back of the annual catalog. So flipping open the catalog, if you go to page 128, this is where the accessories and more section is. This is also, you know, what they call the ink accessories. So this has to do with a lot of the tools that we use when we're doing some different techniques. So you'll see embossing powders, the embossing heat gun, the palette knives, and all these things. Here on page 128 are where the I wonder if I can reverse that image. I don't know how to mirror the image. That's okay. You don't need to worry about the mirrored image or not. So here are the two sets of masks. And then on the page 129, you'll see the blending brushes that we've talked about previously. So these are going to be the two things that we concentrate on tonight. So pages 128, 129 in the annual catalog. So when we finish tonight, we're going to be able to have this card when we finish. This is a multiple layer card. It is on it's on the thick basic white cardstock. There is a matte, a Bermuda Bay, a piece of basic white cardstock that has been trimmed, and this is the one we're going to apply the ink through the mask. And then I have stamped and fussy cut a number of the seashells from the Friends Are Like Seashells stamp set. Added some of the silver metallic, let's see what it's called again, metallic mesh ribbon. And then I also used one of the sentiment bubbles from the Mini Messages cling set that has the matching or the coordinating die, messages die. This is the die that I used. If you're not familiar with this, let me put this where you can see it. If you're not familiar, this is a die that cuts out a number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 22, 23 different pieces. And so what I did is I wanted this particular one right here, and so I had some paper cut that would fit just this area, and then I used that, and I adhered or connected this with a piece of washi tape and ran it through my Stampin' Emboss machine to give me a number of these pieces to go on the front of the card. So without further ado, let's get started. So let me know if you're here. I'm trying to see on the comments. Please let me know that you're here. Okay. Oh, Crystal, hey, long time no see. I'm not going to make it to the team meeting again. I've got to be out of town this weekend, so that's unfortunate for me. So anyway, let's get started. So what we're going to be using, again, we're starting with a piece of basic white cardstock, the regular weight. And you all know that I like to keep these trimmed to 1/4 sheets. So that's 5.5 by 4. I'm going to flip this over just 1 second. I've got a piece of smudge of ink on the previous side. So it's 5.5 by 4 1/4. And you know, like I said, I like to keep these cut and available on my desktop. Okay, we're going to get a clean piece of washi tape because that's just not participating well. And y'all, washi tape is the best to use in these situations. So all I did was make a loop of the washi tape like we used to when we were wrapping gifts and putting stuff on there. And then I have the mask. And let me show you the masks. There are 4 masks in each set. This is the Plenty of Patterns Decorative Masks. I'm going to show these to you one at a time. So we have I call these the Mermaid scales. I'm not sure what they really officially call it. Then here is one that is a floral. So nice. This would probably go very well with a Sweet Symmetry stamp set. This is, they're stuck together. These sometimes, there we go. This has 4 medallions, which I have seen some cards made with this. This is exquisite. You can make this as a motif on the front of a card just by itself. And then this one is a little bit more abstract, which is a fun one to work with. So this is the package that was new in the annual catalog this year. This is called Plenty of Patterns Decorative Masks. This is a relatively affordable piece, tool, and you can use it with any number of things. You don't necessarily have to use the blending brush. I've chosen to use that because it's simple, and I can't seem to get these back in the envelope. You know, any other time before now, I didn't have a single problem, but now I'm all thumbs all of a sudden. There we go. So you don't have to use the blending brush. You can also use the sponge daubers. You can use the soft pastels. You can use watercolor pencils. You can do a lot of different things. You can also use the embossing paste, whether you use it as it comes out of the jar or you can tint it. Now, this is the basic pattern decorative masks, and this is a carried over item. So this is the one that looks like leaves. Here's a polka dot, which you know I love some polka dots. This sort of brocade looking type piece, and then these that are the tree trunks. This would be great to use with the embossing paste and doing sort of a winter background, maybe on a piece of dark cardstock. So I wanted you to see these so you can get some ideas of what are the options that are out there to work with these decorative masks. Like I said, there are plenty of options, but we're going to start with, like I said, the mermaid tail, because that's just what I think is cute. So as we get started, we're also going to be working with the blender brushes. Now, this is the Stampin' Up blender brush. It comes in a set of 3, page 129 in the annual catalog. It started out as a white head on the brush. You can see I've used this. I also labeled this as blue, so I can use this with any number of my blue inks in that family. This one is labeled green. Now, I have to be honest with you, this is not a Stampin' Up one. I've had this one for a while. I had bought it sometime before Stampin' Up came out with these, but it still works the same general way. I just already had that one with green ink on it when I started. So let's get moving. Now, the first thing we're going to do is take our piece of cardstock, this handy dandy piece of cardstock that is cut to the 1/4 piece, and I have lined up, if you see now, I have the mask on my grid paper, and it is set up right along the grid so that I know that the mask is straight. So the pattern is going to be straight on my work paper. I have taken a piece of the washi tape and I've just very lightly taped it at the top, and basically I've made a hinge. You can see that I can flip it back and forth like that. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back and I'm going to line up my paper, this little 1/4 sheet, and I have that roll of tape on the back so that it doesn't move. And you can see that it's going to be straight and it's within the boundaries and the margins of all of the mask, which just makes it easy to work with. So tonight I'm working with these 4 colors, which at first I was thinking, I'm not really sure this is what I want, but after playing with this, I really am very happy with this. We will have Granny Apple Green, Soft Sea Foam, Balmy Blue, and Bermuda Bay. So let's get started. Now I'm going to recommend, hey Barb, I'm going to recommend that when you start with your greens, if you start, whichever color you start with your lightest shade first, because you will do some cleaning of these, but you want to go with lightest to darkest, just because that will ease the number of times you have to clean the brush. So open up your light green ink, and so we're going to start in the middle, because that's where I have it going from dark blue, light green to dark green. Move these out of the way so they don't get ink on them. So all you do is you tap it very lightly in the ink, and you'll see if you come over here and tap off, there is ink coming off over here. And you do that just so that you don't have a big blob of ink. And you start over here off of your workspace, off of your paper that you're working on, and you start making circular motions And I've got my fingers holding the bottom of the mat right here, and you just make circular motions across the mask. And at first you may think, well, I'm not getting any ink on there, but let me tell you, it doesn't take too many times across here, and you can start seeing the ink building up. And the other thing you can do is, and I'm taking this down a little bit more than 1/4 of the way, because I want to have a good base for my Granny Apple Green to blend into. I don't want it to have a lot of obvious striations in the color. So I'm going to go up a little bit more than halfway, because I'm going to blend in the balmy blue on the top, and then I will have so let me show you real quickly. If you're not sure if you're getting any color on your thing, flip it up and you can see right there you're getting color showing up. But because you've had it set up with a hinge, not unlike our Stamparatus, you can do it that way. Now I'm going to go ahead and leave that open, just because I might want to come back and get some of the ink. Now, since I'm going with a darker green, I don't really have to do anything to clean off. What I sometimes do is rub it over here on my scrap paper, just to make sure there's nothing over on the back of my stencils to keep them. This is also what I use. Oh, I never thought about using Aleene's. Okay. So this is a little bit darker ink, a little bit more intense color, so I definitely want to daub that off. And then I just come in and I continue the circular motion. And let me just tell you, if you have any problems with your shoulders, this is not something you want to do on a regular basis. I made a bunch of these backgrounds last night for my swap card, and yeah, I kind of paid for it a little bit. So all right, so I also keep a paper towel, and sometimes I'll use that because it's got a little bit more of a texture, and you can see there's ink coming off. And I do that to make sure I'm getting all my excess ink off, but I may want to pick up a little bit more of that soft sea foam. And even if you darken it up a little bit, it's okay. So there you have those two colors. I'm gonna go ahead and close these because I know my limitations. All right, so now we're gonna pick up the balmy blue and start there. Again, I have a blue. So I washed these last night. I used soap and water on these, and I actually used one of those knobby makeup brush cleaners that's in my sink. Works really well for this, but I set these next to each other as they were drying, and this one actually had some green ink link onto it. But I've worked real hard this afternoon to get it cleaned off. I think we're going to be okay. So let's tap this, the balmy blue. Again, tap off on your table, on your work surface. Start off of your actual project, and then just start your circular motions going over it. And you're going to repeat this just like you did with the green, starting with the light colors. And you can always add more. Remember, it's like salt. You can always add a little bit more. You can never take it off. So be very cautious as you're adding color to your blends. You just want to be very aware of what you're doing. And once you get into this, you'll learn. Sometimes it's, depending on how much space you have to work with, sometimes it's better to use 3 colors. Sometimes it's better to use just 2. I actually did one that I'll show you in a minute where I actually used 5 colors. It was kind of a lot. It was a beautiful, it ends up being a beautiful project, but let me just say, it was a lot. So now the Bermuda Bay is really, like I said, it's like Granny Apple Green. It's a really, really intense color. So let's get that on. And keep in mind, this is exactly 1/4 of a piece of cardstock, so it is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So the beauty of this is that you can do your blending through your mask, and then when it comes time to make your card, you can always trim off the edges. So this is pretty much complete, and so let me Move the ink out of the way. And then I'm going to flip the mask up and get that out of the way. And so now you see your background goes edge to edge. And because you used a little bit of the washi tape on the back and kept it soft, you know, kept it from moving. So you now have this edge to edge background, which I think is really, let me see if I'm in the right place. There we go. Edge to edge background. And you can see the gradation of color, which I think is really kind of cool. Now, actually, when I got ready to use this for my cards, I flipped them over and used it this way. I don't know what I was doing, but when I ended up making my cards, this is what it looked like, with the blue on the bottom going up to the green. In retrospect, these look like little people standing there, little heads in a crowd. So that is the technique that I showed you. And the other thing is that, you know, very easily you could do all blue. You could do it blue and then gradation to green. Any other, it doesn't matter what color you use. This was a horizontal. You could do a vertical gradation. You could do one at an angle. So now I'm going to show you a couple of other card backs that I have made into cards, and you can see the difference that I did. So this was the first one I did, and this looks very familiar. So here's one that I did, and this is the one that had the 5 colors on it. It started with Rich Razzleberry at the top, went from Rich Razzleberry to Gorgeous Grape, Fresh Freesia, Balmy Blue, and Bermuda Bay. Now on this particular piece, I came back and I splattered it with water and pulled up the water close to the end so that some of these inks, these would make them spotty and splotchy and give it a little bit more texture. This also uses the Friends Are Like Seashells and the Biggest Wish set for our sentiment. Let me get this where you can see it. So there's one. And then all I did with the shells is that and the sentiment, I stamped them in the coordinating colors that matches what's in the shading. This particular one started with Gorgeous Grape to Highland Heather to Blushing Bride to Magenta Madness. And so that's a little bit more of a pink and purple. I'm not certain about the Blushing Bride. That was kind of a test. And then this one is a Gorgeous Grape, Highland Heather, Balmy Blue, and Bermuda Bay. So it's like the first one, but it didn't have the Rich Razzleberry. And you can see this one, I actually did it at an angle, so it's a little bit different of a gradient there. So these are easy these are easy ways to use these tools, and in the back of the catalog, pages 128 and 129, using your masks to create a background. And then let me show you one more time. This is the finished card, and this is what the finished card looks like. So I've taken that and I've trimmed it down to 4 by 5 1/4. I matted it with Bermuda Bay at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. I actually put this up on dimensionals, the panel up on dimensionals. I've used the sentiment from the sweet ice cream. That's where that came from. Had to stop and think about it. Like I said, I used the metallic mesh, and then I have the opal embellishments that I've put on here, which I think are becoming my favorites. So this was really simple to put together, a really fast card, but it looks like it took a lot of time and a lot of effort. And really, these masks, I probably will spend more time wiping this up and cleaning it up. So that's what I've got for tonight. This is my Worktable Wednesday. That's what I want you to see. If you're interested in buying any of these, obviously you can order it if you're a demonstrator yourself. If not, you can always order it from me using the August Workshop code. And if you have any questions or you would like to know more, please don't hesitate to send me a PM or comment on this video. Please, if you are so inclined, also share this video to your friends and let them see all the different things you can do with the cool Stampin' Up! Products. Until next week, and by the way, see next week? No, I'll be here. I think I'll be here next week. Anyway, take care, and I will see everybody. Bye-bye.